So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to EnvisAGE 2021, an online symposium where we can hear about and exchange ideas on how aging can be an enabling and empowering experience when it is fully embraced by seniors. This symposium is jointly organized by the National Library Board of Singapore and the Singapore University of Social Sciences. I'm Hui Yi from the National Library Board, and I'll be your MC for today. Right now, we are into our third session of the symposium, and in this session, our panelists will be covering on seniors living options around the globe. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the panelists for taking time off your busy schedule to join us for today's session. Before we begin the session, let me take you through some gentle reminders so that we can all have a more pleasant experience for the next 1.5 hours or so. You may like to use your headphones for better audio quality, and please leave us your questions using the Q&A button and not the chat box. And lastly, the session will be actually recorded. You can ask a question by first clicking on the Q&A button and then key in your question into the box. So do remember to click send after you have finished typing your questions. A gentle reminder here to only key your questions into the Q&A box. They will be addressed by the panelists during the Q&A segment. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ms. Veronica Tay as our moderator for today. She recently completed her studies in SUSS gerontology program and became interested in working with older adults after volunteering in a nursing home. I shall now hand the time over to Veronica for her to introduce our three speakers. Over to you, Veronica.
Thanks, Hui. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Embrace segment of the EnvisAGE Symposium. This segment will explore senior living options around the globe. As the world sees a rise in population aging, the public and private sectors are also preparing conducive and independent living environments for the aging population. This afternoon, we have three speakers from Singapore, United States, and Malaysia, who will be sharing with us the senior living concepts that have worked for their local communities. They will also be taking us on a virtual tour around the various senior living options available in Singapore, China, Malaysia, and the United States. Each speaker will introduce to us their project, followed by a 5-minute Q&A after each presentation. If you have any questions for the speakers and their projects, please indicate them in the Q&A tab as mentioned by Hui Yi earlier. First up, we have Ms. Unting, Senior Manager of the Aging Planning Office at Singapore's Ministry of Health. Prior to joining the Ministry of Health, Ms. Ang was with the Ministry of Social and Family Development and also the National Council of Social Service. With her keen interest in the elder care sector and almost 10 years of experience in the public sector, she has worked closely with community partners and elder care providers, and has also led sector engagements to review national programs. In addition, she has conceptualized service delivery and care models to meet the needs of seniors. Today, she will be introducing to us Singapore's first assisted living pilot project for seniors in Singapore's public housing. And she will also share with us her first-hand experience for this project. Ms. Ang, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Unting from Health. Are we going to see the slides?
No. We can share the slides for you.
Okay. I'll move on to talk about the assisted living. Okay. Yeah, so I'll move on to talk about the assisted living in public housing, otherwise known as the community care apartments. We've actually launched this earlier in February this year. So before we move on to talk about the assisted living concept, we wanted to also provide a broad overview on the aging landscape in Singapore. So if we can move on to slide 4, that actually represents the key demographic challenges that we are facing. I think we are all aware that we're facing a rapidly aging population, and by 2030, we'll see more than 900,000 seniors aged 65 and above. So that's 1 in 4 persons in Singapore. And with that, we are confronted with a few demographic realities: that of a shrinking workforce, changing family structures where you see more seniors living alone, as well as growing care needs where 1 in 3 seniors may have 3 or more chronic conditions. If we move on to the next slide. Yeah, so in charting our aging policy, we've always maintained that aging in place is a key focus, and that is actually in line with preferences of Singaporeans. So if you look at the latest sample household survey conducted in 2018, among HDB households, many of them actually prefer to continue to stay where they lived. I think that's not surprising, given that majority of them are not willing to be uprooted from where they are familiar with. And that could actually lead to a sense of dislocation if people were to actually move out to a new environment at this point. And actually more than 40% were actually willing to stay at an assisted living facility if there's a need. And to this end, what we have been trying to do is to support their aspirations to age in place by integrating community-based services into existing housing estates. We'll share a bit more later on what these com-based services are about. So you move on to the next slide. Yeah. So to ensure that we are able to support all seniors, we have actually built a nationwide community-based system to actually support, to be wrapped around our seniors. And that's actually characterized by 3 key areas, being touch, help, and hold. So what we do under touch is basically we get silver generation ambassadors who are essentially volunteers. They actively go door knocking to really outreach to all seniors at whom they can find, identify who are those with needs. And typically, you either refer them to community partners to hold on to them, keep a lookout for them, engage them, and ensure that they stay active and healthy. And for those with higher care needs, for example, some of them with very complex care needs, they could be referred to service providers or case management providers to kind of triage some of these issues that they are facing. But essentially is to ensure that we reach out to everyone, ensure that everyone is able to get the assistance that they require. So we move on to the next slide. Yeah. With effect from this year, we'll also be progressively rolling out a suite of services at all elder care centers to serve all seniors. Essentially, what this means is that all seniors will be able to access a basic suite of services. And that's really on preventive health, ensuring that they stay healthy, stay engaged, are able to get opportunities to remain active participants in the community. We try to prevent social isolation with befriending and buddying services. And seniors are able to get information and be referred to care and support services if there's a need to. So for some seniors, they may develop care needs, and that's when the elder care centers are able to refer them to the correct services that's available in the community. So we really see this as an entire ecosystem. It's not so much that the elder care centers will provide these services, but actually they're part of a larger ecosystem that actually reaches out to seniors and ensure that services are able to reach these seniors. If we move on to the next slide. So for seniors who are well, we provide preventive health and active aging programs to help them stay active and healthy. And run by campaigns and the community screening programs make it as affordable and accessible that's embedded within the community. For those who are well but at risk of social isolation, in the next slide, befriending is then layered on to provide support. The intent is really senior has a friend. So if it's actually at risk of social isolation, we link them up with befriending service to provide that level of support. So somebody actually checks in on them. If we move on to the next slide. So this is for seniors who are pre-frail to frail. They'll be referred to community-based care to support them to age in place. So earlier we've talked about aged care services. So for those who require some level of support, they can either get the care required within a center-based setting, or if they prefer to actually consume services within their own home, there's home care services for them as well. So I think center-based care is useful in the sense that some of our caregivers may be able to support seniors, but they have to work in the day. And the center-based care can come in during the day to look out for these seniors and also to engage them within mind-stimulating activities, and there's some programming for them as well. Beyond that, we also recognize that caregiver needs support. and we have caregiver training run. FTWs in Singapore's context, they also provide care to our seniors, and that's where we come in to provide elder care training for FTWs as well as grant for employment of FTWs. So moving on to the next slide, seniors who are frail or who are frail or very frail, they actually have a spectrum of options as well. For example, there's integrated home and daycare packages, and that really provides flexibility for seniors to either consume services in a home or center-based setting. So previously, seniors can either choose to do so in home or center-based, but now we provide that flexibility for them to consume in different settings because conditions of seniors can change on a day-to-day basis, and I think this actually provides flexibility for both caregivers as well as the seniors. In terms of home care, we also have home medical and home nursing care. And what it entails is basically a doctor or a nurse providing services in clients' home. We've earlier mentioned, aging in place is a core tenet of our aging policy, and nursing home is on the other end of the spectrum, institutional care, and that's really the last resort. It's reserved for seniors with very, very high care needs and with little to no family support. So beyond that, for those who require end-of-life care, there's also palliative care, and that can be delivered in a center or home-based setting as well. So if you move on to the next slide. Yeah, so as our population continues to age, we need to do more to cater to the needs and preference of our current and future cohort of seniors. So earlier we mentioned nursing home is the last resort, and currently it remains the main residential option for those who can no longer be supported in their own home. So we wanted to look at, how can we adapt our senior living options accordingly to both, cater to the demographic shifts that we are seeing, as well as seniors' growing preference to continue to age in the community rather than in institutions. So if we move on to the next slide. So that's really the impetus for us to explore assisted living in Singapore. And given that majority of Singaporeans actually live in public housing, we wanted to see how we can actually shape AL in the context of public housing within Singapore. So next we'll talk about the residential options for seniors. So we have actually jointly developed community care apartments as an alternative residential option for seniors. And it really seeks to expand the continuum that we see today. As I've mentioned, nursing home is on one end of the spectrum. On the other end, we have actually over the past years actually devised different schemes to ensure that seniors are able to be supported as far as possible. But some of these schemes are very much focused on infrastructure. So for example, seniors can continue to age in their own flat. They can also tap on HDB Enhanced for Active Seniors program. Essentially, it provides subsidy for seniors to retrofit their house in a more age-friendly manner. There's also two-room flexi, which is a short lease housing. So essentially, seniors need to cover themselves up to 90 years old. And when they move into such flats, they are actually retrofitted with senior-friendly features. And we see there's actually space for us to look at a new housing typology, the community care apartments, which integrates both housing as well as care. To develop housing cum care options that comes with social programs as well as activities. So if we move on to the next slide, you'll see that actually we have actually developed these flats with Singaporeans. So beyond our initial concept plan, we actually consulted seniors, caregivers, service providers, and healthcare professionals at these specially constructed flats. So we actually built all these flats and actually got feedback from our participants. And some of the feedback that we got was, for example, the installation of a partition to kind of segregate the bedroom from the kitchenette area. And that was something that we built into the final layout plan. There were a few other changes that we made to the design of this assisted living developments as a result of these feedback. So moving on, we'll talk about the objectives of this community care apartment. So it's really to provide a new housing option for seniors, which comes integrated with care services. what we hope to adopt is really a life course approach, so that seniors can move in when they are well, and you can actually age in place with a peace of mind, knowing that, you know, when you develop care needs, you can actually layer on additional services. You just need to, you know, put additional fee for these services. But there's some certainty that, you know, you don't have to navigate care landscape that sometimes could be difficult for seniors to do so. And we wanted to provide cost-effective care to seniors, with demand being aggregated within a single housing type, a single development. That makes it more efficient, and we can actually provide it in a more affordable manner. And we also wanted to encourage the formation of strong social support. If you think about it, it's really about, you know, communal living, about kampong spirit, being able to design it such that, you know, seniors can build relationships with one another, participate actively through in programs and activities that's being organized for them. And even better, they can actually organize some of these activities and programs themselves, with the on-site staff coming in to facilitate and support. So the next segment, we'll talk about the concept of the community care apartment. So this development was actually launched earlier in this year under the BTO scheme. And if you're familiar, basically you take about 3 to 4 years to actually, you know, build this, complete this development. And it's due to be completed in 2024. It's a standalone block with about 160 units available. As we've mentioned, this is actually a short lease flat. And seniors have to cover themselves up to 95 years old. So there are different varying leases, lease length that seniors can opt into, and also different payment option. But to give an indicative sense of how much it costs, essentially for a 30 years lease, it's going to cost about 82,000 upfront, with $50 monthly payment. So that's just to give you a sensing of the cost of a community care apartment. Moving on, we'll talk about concept of the CCA. Yeah, so it essentially, seniors are essentially purchase a short lease flat with senior friendly features. All of them are also it's also mandatory to subscribe to a basic service package that provides them with a basic level of support. I think the another key reason is because we wanted to be able to achieve that critical mass to be able to deliver this service in a as cost efficient manner as possible. Residents can also lay on services like we've mentioned, and there's also communal spaces as well as an activity center located within the block. And that's really to achieve what we actually set out to do under the objective. We've talked about, you know, being able to ensure that we form communities of mutual care and support. Seniors can look out for one another, build meaningful relationships with one another. So if we move on to the next slide, that's actually an artist's impression of how the flat looks like. So it's a cozy space, 32 square meters with an open layout, and that partition that we have talked about earlier. So some other changes we've made include, for example, setting aside space for a full-size fridge, and that's really what seniors actually wanted, to be able to have that flexibility to cook in their units if they want to. So if we move on to the next slide, it shows you some of the senior-friendly features that seniors will be able to, residents will be able to move in with minimal renovation. And there's really wide wheelchair-friendly main door that's actually inbuilt into the design, and a wheelchair-accessible bathroom that's pretty large by HDB standard. It's wheelchair accessible. It also allows for caregiver to have the space to navigate themselves, and when they help with assisted showering. So it's in that sense future-proof for care needs. So if you look at the next slide, there are some other flat features that's not shown earlier. I'll just pick two of them to briefly cover it. So if you look at the first photo, right in front of the housing unit, there's actually this bench sitting. And what it does is basically it helps, makes it easier for seniors to, you know, wear and take off their shoes with grab bars and grab bar fitting installed. And if you look just below that picture, there's this display panel. So the reason why we actually designed this is because we see this as a rudimentary way for seniors to be monitored if they want to. So some seniors actually move in alone. They are unsure or uncertain whether, you know, somebody will look out for them, or if they fall, will somebody detect them in time. And if they want that form of monitoring to be provided to them, they can actually choose to leave it open so that both staff as well as neighbors can actually check in on them from time to time. At the same time, they can actually also opt to close it for privacy reasons. So we provide that form of flexibility. Yeah. So the next slide actually talks about the basic service package. So we've mentioned that everyone needs to subscribe to this package, right? And what it entails is really the service of a comm manager who will ensure that the following services are provided. So for example, if you develop care needs, somebody to navigate the care services for you, recommend services, and arrange the necessary for you. Simple home fixes, for example, if your light bulb, you need to change light bulb, somebody will be able to do that for you. So you see this as very much the role of a caregiver who can help to settle simple home fixes for you, also arrange some activities in the communal space. There's also basic health checks as a form of preventive health monitoring, 24/7 emergency response. So there's also buttons actually inbuilt into the flats. So if seniors actually, they can choose where to locate these buttons, and if activated, somebody will actually come in to assist seniors as well, residents as well. And there's key card access to individual flats. So if given consent, staff can actually access seniors unit on an emergency, if an emergency response is being triggered. So beyond that, services can be scaled according to the needs of residents. So they can subscribe to additional optional services. I think one more interesting thing that I wanted to point out is the shared caregiving service, which is something new that's not available in the community today. So what it essentially does is to take on the role of caregiver. So it's 24/7 assistance round the clock. So if anyone requires assistance for say toileting in the middle of the night, there'll be staff on site who will be able to assist. So all seniors have to do is to press a button, and on-site staff will be able to enter their unit and assist them on a needs basis. There's also medication reminders as well as assistance with simple errands, for example, packaging food from the co-located hawker center, which will actually show which you'll see more later on. Basically, there's an on-site hawker center that's actually co-located within the development as well. Yeah. So if you move on to the next slide, yeah, I see some questions coming in. We'll try to address them later on. If we move on to the next slide, it's actually artist's impression of the communal space. So on every floor, there will be a furnished shared living space for residents to interact and bond with their neighbors. So this actually complements our activity center that's co-located. So like we mentioned earlier, there is one communal space on every floor. There is also a larger activity center that is on site. And that's really for the activity center, it's really to organize more structured activities and in larger group sizes. Whereas this, you really see it as an extension of your own living room. It's a hallmark of communal living. If you see it as, for example, student hostel, there's this shared space for people to come in, interact with one another, mingle with one another. And we also want seniors to actually take the initiative and also the ownership of managing the space. And if you look at the walls on this communal space, right, you see that there are actually interactive panels, and the intent is really to facilitate communication between residents and staff, and also among residents themselves. They can use this space to organize potlucks themselves, and perhaps even like group buys and things like that. And that really helps to empower our seniors. Okay, the next slide is essentially some nearby amenities that residents can access. There's a community gym located within the nearby nursing home, as well as a senior care center. On site, there's an activity center and hawker center, which you'll see in the next slide. One other thing that I would like to share is also that given that there's a nursing home located nearby, what we have done under the this community care apartment, right, is to provide priority access for residents if they require nursing home care. So they get basically priority admission to nursing home, and that is really to give them the assurance that if their care needs increases, if they can no longer be supported within their own home, they can actually get priority admission to nursing home without that uncertainty about how long do I have to wait to be able to get my placement. So this last slide is actually our CCA development. On the first floor, there's a hawker center located. On the third floor, there's actually a fitness station as well as community garden. So all these are facilities that encourage the community to come into the CCA development. We understand that having a standalone development, there's also considerations about whether this will be a senior community. So we do want to inject community into this space. We want it to be an integrated space rather than see it as a vertical kampong which comprises of only seniors. We want this to be seen as a vertical kampong. So it's not just seniors living in the CCA development, but also seniors living in the vicinity are actually welcome to come in to participate in for example, like the community garden program, as well as use the fitness station as well. And also for hawker centers that will actually invite the community to come into this space as well. Yeah, so that's about the end for this part. The last segment is actually just a video of the mock-up that we have actually constructed. Earlier, we have actually placed it at HDB Hub as part of the sales launch, so that people can get a better sense of how the unit looks like. Yeah, so we'll be sharing this video. Yeah, so essentially, fixed retrofits like the wardrobe, cabinets, as well as the stove and hob, etc., are all actually inbuilt. Seniors will not have to, residents when they move in, they will not have to do their own renovation. They just have to ensure that furniture like bed, bedside table, and things like that are being purchased separately. So this is how the bathroom looks like. Designed to be wheelchair accessible, with grab bars installed. So this is where they can hang their clothes. The service yard.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ang, for the very insightful and very comprehensive sharing. We have received many questions, but unfortunately, due to the interest of time, we can only take one question. Okay, so one of the questions from the floor is basically, is this open to all Singaporeans? Is there any prerequisite like income levels, etc., or you have to do means testing?
Yeah. Okay, so there's no means testing. This is assisted living in public housing. So really the criteria is largely aligned to HDB criteria in terms of income. So 14,000 and below. There is each criteria, 65 and above. And that's higher than our typical, another senior living typology that we have is 2-room flexi, right? And that's 55 years and above. So a reason why this is higher is because this is assisted living, and we envision that those of a higher age are actually more likely to require care in a shorter term. And that's really why we set it at 65. And also another criteria is seniors will need to purchase the basic service package. Those are the key criteria. Most of the other criteria actually align to HDB criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For the other questions that we have in the Q&A, Ms. Ang will try her level best to try to answer to all these questions, or else you can also refer to MOH website on this assisted living program and also in the HDB's mock-up, right? Yeah. Okay, so next up, we have Mr. Jim Biggs, adjunct lecturer at the Davis School of Gerontology at the University of Southern California. Mr. Jim is also the co-founder and CEO of West Bay Senior Living, and he has more than 30 years of experience in the development and management of senior housing and continuing care retirement communities in the US and China. Mr. Jim has also co-founded a startup senior housing company in China, where he has lived and worked for 6 years. Now we shall hand over the time to Mr. Jim to share more about the various senior housing projects that he has been involved in. Additionally, he will provide us with insights and an overview of similarities and differences between the two largest senior care markets in the world, the US and China. Mr. Jim, please.
Thank you for the very nice introduction. Yes, I am a senior myself, which is the irony is not lost on that I'm still building and developing senior housing. And again, here I am, I'm age 61. So anyhow, we're going to spend about the next maybe 15 to 20 minutes just with a broad overview. I think if I understand right, the audience is very diverse. There's students, there's seniors, there's industry people. It's kind of a big cross section. So we're going to kind of keep this basic. And if there are any questions, by all means, just submit them. And I can be as specific or I can be as broad as needed. That's me. So again, just a little bit of background. It was Hongwei. If you're ever in China, Friendship House, there were 14 kind of care projects that carry the Friendship House brand. We also did a Ccrc in downtown Shanghai in Junction Park. And we did an active adult community in Chongming Island off the coast of Shanghai. The United States, the work I'm doing is primarily in California with one project in California or in Chicago. Again, a lot of high-end stuff, and we'll talk a little bit about different types of senior housing and just understanding that there's a true diversity, particularly in the United States, in terms of projects that are government provided and government funded, and then the private sector as well. And that's, one theme important to take away is it's very difficult to compare country to country because governments lay out different programs and allocate different resources, particularly for the care of the seniors. And so what happens, and we saw that in the United States with Medicare and Medicaid, it kind of creates a base, if you will. The government takes care of those residents that lack the financial resources to pay for it first. And then that kind of creates a foundation, if you will. And then the private sector evolves. They come up with different price points and different models, and that the consumers and their families can then self-select what type of senior housing they want. But that's a process. It takes about 20 to 30 years. Japan is just now kind of coming into its prime. China, it may be 10 to 15 years before they get to that level. But again, some basic facts then about the United States. Age 65, most couples are going to need about $285,000 USD just to pay for their projected healthcare cost. You have about a 70% chance of moving into a senior housing, and that's primarily a nursing home. And again, in terms of government allocations, seniors are 15% of the population, yet they use about a third of the government total financial resources. We're getting older as a society, just like everyone else is, and we anticipate $6.2 trillion in terms of healthcare by the year 2028. So in other words, we are not yet at our peak period in terms of activity for senior housing. But nevertheless, and again, it's a fallacy. People kept on, they talk about filial piety in China, that 82, Chinese people won't like senior care. Families take care of them. Again, US, we're about 82 to 85%. China, it's about 92 to 93%. But there's a lot more options out there in the, obviously in China. I want to spend just a second on here because, believe it or not, this is the most important slide in terms of understanding the differences. There are essentially 7 different types of senior housing. We kind of have a tendency to talk about them generically, but there's government apartments, and that in the US is very similar to that presentation we just heard. It's property management, that there may not be too much healthcare involved in there, but it's for residents, seniors with no healthcare needs. They can live in the property. We have an active adult, which is kind of the 55 and older communities. Home health transcends everything. Home health can go into any different level of care. But for these next 4 areas, these are all licensed entities. So in order to call yourself assisted living, you have to meet the government regulations for compliance with assisted living and with skilled care and with memory care. In China, they don't necessarily have those licenses. So it's important to understand, we may call it assisted living in China or in other parts of the world, but it may not necessarily be run identically like it is in the US. Because again, there is no regulations that dictate what that product's going to be like. And then the Ccrc, which is the one that everyone talks about, but is actually the least popular version in the United States in terms of number of beds. The Ccrc is just all those services are located on one campus, which is very convenient. But when you take a look at that far right-hand column, you could see with home health, with skilled nursing, a little bit with memory care, but not much, and ditto with the Ccrc, there is strong government support. And that means the government will pay providers to take care of seniors in these entities. So again, one of the things we find out, obviously for the 55 and older communities, they can go outside the city limits. They can be out on Xiaoming Island in China because it's geared towards younger residents, 55 and 60, they're much more mobile. But we find that once people get into their 80s, generally they'll want a healthcare asset located within 3 to 5 kilometers of where they currently are. So in other words, they don't want to move far, which is interesting in China when you think about so many of the strategies, these large properties are going outside of the 5th and 6th ring of the cities. We would argue they're not really Ccrcs, they're more active adult because their average age for people moving out there are sometimes what we see is in the 60s. The United States, to move into a Ccrc, to move into assisted living, average age is generally about 80. But again, the Ccrcs aren't for everyone, even though we talk a lot about them. That's what people like to see. That's only about 2% of the population will end up in a Ccrc. And for the financial people and the investors in the audience, by far your best returns are combining an assisted living with a memory care, generally about 80 to 120 beds, give or take. And when you take a look at that friendship house model in China, that's 14 of them. That's kind of what we executed that was just a healthcare component and services that were provided. And we did feel very comfortable providing memory care services in China. So again, what else is going on in the United States? People are waiting longer and longer to move into senior housing. And that's kind of an interesting trend. What we're finding is that COVID has kind of slowed that down a little bit as well. It'll be interesting to see if the average age drops back as the COVID period kind of fades away into the background. But right now we're seeing people waiting a little bit longer to move in. The Ccrc is, again, in China. And I know I keep on bouncing back and forth here. But again, that is a model that the insurance companies are doing. They do feel it's very desirable. But again, the major difference, and it's important to note this, in the United States, demographically, because we know that the average age is 80 to 85, people don't want to move that far away. So we look and study the demographics, and we try to find clusters of age and income qualified 80 to 85-year-olds. And then we look for the land and location to build the healthcare product. In China, all too often, and again, it's very competitive with the land. It's difficult to get sites in urban markets. All too often, they want to build that product wherever they can find the land, and then they try to convince the people to move out there. And that's one of the reasons that the occupancy rates have been they've been a little bit slow to fill in China. But again, the government support means the regulated industry, and it diminishes the need for marketing. And there's a terrific example of this. There is a Japanese memory care company that has been phenomenally successful in Japan. They've got waiting lists. We took them to China, and after 1 year, they had, I think, 2 or 3 people living in the community. Same company, same product, run the same way. But the important difference was in Japan, they had the government support. They gave vouchers to the families. The families found the memory care, and that's what drove the success of the product. In China, they didn't have that government support, and it was very, very difficult to market it. So again, for those of you that are looking to get into the senior housing, it's just important to understand that reimbursement does drive marketing, and that this is why it's very difficult for companies that are successful in one particular country to take their model to another country. So again, it's because if the regulations are different and the reimbursement is different, you just cannot run the product like you do in that home country. So again, understanding and adapting to those evolving government regulations is always going to be the key to maximizing your revenues. But again, overall, and this is primarily due to the architects, I'm going to show some projects now. This is in the United States. It's an active adult community or a senior apartment community. You can see it's nice. It's government support. And these are ones in China. So again, just like that property today that I looked at for Singapore was absolutely beautiful as well. There's not much of an architectural or a finished design difference with some of these different projects. For the active adult, this is in Arizona. This is called Del Webb. It's an active adult community with 25,000, give or take, seniors living there. Again, absolutely beautiful. This is in China, the Chaoming Island project. So again, very similar in terms of the size. You would think these are identical. And from an architectural, from a hardware point of view, they are. Here's some assisted living in the United States. And again, typically the size with these are 90 to 120 units. Again, senior-friendly architecture. And what we see here in China, oops. Oh, I would argue that in China, I didn't show any pictures because really, I would argue that because we have so many of the built-in care components, they provide the meals, they provide the services, they are service apartments to a certain extent with healthcare in China. They really, all of China right now is an assisted living. Matter of fact, when I was in there, we had a very difficult time coming up with a term that could be easily translated to assisted living because generally that was the same phrase used for the entire project. Nursing homes in the United States, again, are primarily government subsidized, 2 to the room. And again, these are some Chinese nursing homes. The Wuhan, the China Merchants Project, very nice, very senior friendly, and again, very big on the hardware. And Taiping has a wonderful project in Shanghai as well. You can see there's a real love for the hardware here. And then finally within the Ccrc, or I'm sorry, the memory care here, you can kind of see sometimes it's 1 or 2 to the room. It's a more simplified design in the United States because, again, the people with the memory, you don't want to have too many challenges just simply because it can be overwhelming for people that have sustained memory loss. But again, most of the buildings are nice. It's urban areas downtown. This is the original Friendship House, which we #1 in China. This was my very first project there. And we designed it specifically for memory care. And then we ran it as a assisted living medical needs. And there were some people with memory loss. There were other people with that just required some services. Final here is the Ccrc. Again, in the United States, they're very big, they're very nice. Entrance fees may be as much as $1 million. The project I'm working on in Los Angeles, it's a rental, and it's going to be about $8,000 to $12,000 per month. And that gives the complete service package, which includes meals, activities, a little bit of healthcare and healthcare management. It provides the food, housekeeping services, transportation, and other things. So again, it's like a service apartment that you would find, but the difference is there is also an assisted living area and a memory care that if the residents age in place, these services will become available. And this was another project I worked on in China. This is Jade Tower in Shanghai. Again, beautiful project, great location right there in Junction Park area. Another South Pier project. And again, a lot of these were either done by international architects or they were inspired by international projects. So we're starting to see a lot of similarities in the hardware. And if you go to Japan, the Sun City projects, they were developed by Kawazawa-san, the same thing. He always insisted he would just have the architect design it and he wouldn't necessarily worry about it. So again, you got to ask yourself, why is everyone building the Ccrcs in China? Well, about 15 years ago, they started coming to the US. The newer, more expensive projects were the Ccrcs, and they were big. And the Chinese just said, that's what we want to do. We want to do these in China. We want to have that same type of building over here. Again, it's not necessarily unique to the USA. Australia has some great projects. Korea has the Samsung project. We're starting to see a lot of international projects, but to tell you the truth, when you walk through them, you really can't tell what country you're in sometimes just because of the architecture. So again, how close are the US and China in terms of top quality senior housing? Again, from an architectural view, I'd say it's a dead heat, and sometimes the Chinese pay even more. But we do operate at different levels and different standards. We have, in the United States, there were a lot more choices and price points. So in other words, it just wasn't 5-star and 3-star. You had some 4 stars, you had some 4-star pluses and everything else. But again, the other important point to remember, and guys, this has been tested around the world. The 3 most important reasons people move into senior housing. Number 1, respect. Elderly aren't always treated with respect out on the street. Our secret sauce as providers is we treat the residents with respect. That's why they move in, because they can be treated in respect inside our building, and outside they may not necessarily do so. Number 2 is healthcare. It's important to the seniors when they're in their 80s. And number 3 is food. Around the world, the least important thing for a decision to move into senior housing, believe it or not, is the hardware. A lot of developers, a lot of people have a very hard time with that, but it doesn't always have to be 5-star quality buildings. It's nice if they are for certain people, but the majority of people will pay the money if they feel they can get those top three things, because the good nutritious food, the access to better health care, and above all, respect. So again, I'm going to wrap this up. How to succeed in the future. Hey, you got to understand there are different types of the models, prices, and even the targeted age. It doesn't make sense to go outside of the sixth ring and build a big nursing home because there's not enough people to populate the nursing home out there. You build your healthcare components closer to those city centers, anywhere where there's a high density of seniors. We do always encourage and welcome some government regulations to protect that vulnerable adult, and that the regulations dictate clarity in the market so that anybody can open their door now in China and say they do assisted living. And there's nobody to say, hey, that's not assisted living. It's very difficult to differentiate the top quality projects from the lesser quality because they all use the same words, the same phrases. And that's going to continue until the government says, hey, this is what you have to provide these services if you want to call yourself a nursing home or memory care or assisted living. Understand what the market, you got to listen to the customers, the consumers. Private pay is a choice. And the choice is I can choose to stay at my home or I can choose to move to one of these communities. You've got to give people what they're looking for. Culture, it starts at the top, and data. You've got to be a smart company. The margins, I can get you 40% here in the United States, operating margin at a lot of our communities. But again, in China, the best we could do for now is about 15%, just simply because people can't afford and people don't value a products. There's pressure. So we have to work smarter, and we work a lot with data on that. So again, I know this is blurry. Trust me, we track everything over here. But here's why data is so important. When we opened up that first friendship house, look at the money we spent to make 11 sales, 30,000 RMB per resident. That was only paying 7,200. It was expensive to do that preliminary marketing. We learned, we applied those lessons in that second group. We dropped that price down almost in half to 16,000 RMB per resident, and we got 30, but even that wasn't good enough. And so for that last group, we were down to paying 5,000 RMB to attract those last 6 people. So again, we measured every single ad, what type of response, we collected the data, we analyzed it, and we applied it. Final thing is the culture. And if you want to know, this is an area where people said it couldn't be done in China. I disagree. I actually lived in Friendship House when it opened for 4 months. So, I mean, I literally lived inside the nursing home on the second floor, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to train. And here's one of my pride and joys. That's, see if you can find me on the right there. Anybody, it's like, where's Waldo? Can anyone see me? Find me? That's me in the back. On the left, though, is the executive director. This was not something she was asked to do. In China, we had too much of where the bosses didn't want to necessarily get involved. Our culture was, it's the residents who are the VIPs. And so the executive directors and the management company, and even me, we had to set the example that we went there, we helped with the feeding, we helped with the activities, we helped with all those areas, because again, people, that's who your VIPs are. It's not the company, it's not the bosses, it's the people who live there. Any questions? And I know I kind of blitzed through that. This is normally about an hour and a half presentation. So but I also figured everyone just likes to look at the pictures anyhow. So we kind of got to those.
Thank you, Mr. Jim, for the very, very comprehensive and very insightful presentation. Yeah, so we have received a number of questions. One of the questions is pertaining to your presentation. I think that I personally haven't heard of the model of memory care before. Perhaps you would like to elaborate a little bit about it?
Sure. Memory care is something that came about 10 years ago. We have found from research that 1 out of 2 people over the age of 85 have some type of memory loss. What we try to do with the memory care is we bring those residents into one environment where we can have some therapeutic activities. We can provide that care. It's economical, and we actually get some better outcomes. And we design that environment specifically for people with the memory loss. So when you look at Friendship House, rooms were about 25 square meters, 1 to a room. You sleep better if it's only 1 person. And every room had its own private bathroom. You sleep better. You have, and we also designed it with a lot of windows so that people got 2 hours of sunlight every day, at least. So that helps the circadian rhythms. You sleep better, you're less likely to be agitated, you're less likely to have falls, any number of different things. Sometimes you have to make compromises because of cost, but if you have 2 or 3 to a room, people don't sleep as well, and that sometimes can create issues. So you try to design, and that's what we did with that first Friendship House. We just took the best practices, we adapted it, and then we trained the staff on what type of therapeutic activities would make a difference with people, and had some wonderful results. We had a woman who was a chronic walker in circles. I had one staff member who just one-on-one her for almost 2 weeks before they finally connected with, of all things, an abacus. It turned out she was a retired accountant and just took that abacus and just for hours would play with it, and with a smile. So we thought that was a good positive outcome. So that's what memory care does. It's less medical and it's more therapeutic for the memory loss.
Thank you. It's very, very interesting. Maybe one day it can be adapted to be used in Singapore's context. Yeah.
It's international right now. Japan, the Saito, SAITO does some amazing things with some of the therapeutic activities that help exercise the frontal cortex. Finland's got some tremendous programs as well. So it really is, it's one of those areas where internationally we really are seeing some great crossover of great ideas.
Okay. For all the other questions that Mr. Biggs has left, that you have entered in the Q&A, Mr. Jim will try his best to reply those questions. Feel free to, just address the questions to him and just use his experience and yeah. Okay. Last but not least, we have Ms. Wee Chai-Yin from Malaysia. She's the founder and administrator of care services at Keepers Nursing and Caregiving, located in Penang, Malaysia. Ms. Wee is also an advanced practice nurse and has experience ranging from healthcare management to crisis intervention and other management experiences, such as opening new facilities. Today, she will take us through the aging landscape in Malaysia and also introduce to us her latest project, the Penang Retirement Resort, a continuing care retirement community commissioned by the Penang Turf Club, catered for independent living, assisted living, and comprehensive care. Ms. Wee, please.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Veronica. Today I'm going to talk about Penang Retirement Resort. Let me share the slides. We are going through the aging landscape in Malaysia. So it's a global phenomenon that's experienced by both developing and developed countries. While Malaysia is on the way towards the aging society. So the aging concern in Malaysia is more about our health, living arrangement, care and welfare, while considering the implication of housing, infrastructures, income, as well as economic growth. Yeah, in Malaysia, not all people are receiving pensions, only the government sector. And then for private sector, we do have those forced savings schemes, such as similar to CPF in Singapore. So, but according to the research, most people spend all of it within 10 years after receiving it. So we have to be careful in this when aging is catching up in Malaysia. Okay, based on UN, aging society is when the population of age 65 and above reaches 7% of the total populations. And then age society is when it's 14% and super age society when it's 20%. Currently, Malaysia is at aging society. The median age is also increasing. In 2010, it was 26.3 years, and then it's expected to increase to 38.3 years in 2040, and increases a total of 12 years over a period of 30 times. And then dependency ratio is, of course, following it. It's going to increase as well because the people are getting senior. So you can see from the median age, from 2010, it was 26.3, and then by 2020, we are already at 30.9. So, and then it's expected to increase. So this is the dependency ratios. So it indicates the level of the economic burden that the employed in the population is taking on to support the unemployed. So we are now at 7.4%, and then for the old age dependency ratios, and then we are expected to reach 21.7% in 2040, which is almost jumped by threefold. Currently, we have around 3.5 million of elderly who is age 65 and above. So we are now an aging society. So we are expected to reach the age society by the year of 2040 when the population reaches 14.5%. The younger age group is also decreasing. Yeah, so the effect of the decline in the fertility rates, we have lesser younger populations and then younger age, working class. So the percentage of the working age group is declined by 2030. So this is the population chart by specific age group by our Malaysia data. So we are now at 7.2%. Yeah, this is for 65 and above. So it's going to increase until 40. And then for the younger generations, you can see from 27.4, it's going to decrease to 23.5. And then towards 2040 is going to be by 18%. All right, now we're going to look into different stages of retirement age. Yeah, 65 and 75 to 75 years old, we are still mainly still active, and then we are considered quite healthy. So many people at this age is still traveling around, and then they may have still continue working and then just doing some part-time jobs. Yeah, so by the time we reach 76 to 85, so most people at this age would like to settle down. So, they usually will choose a place where they want to retire, and then they will plan on it. And then many of people at this age, usually they are considered downsizing. So depends on the country. For most Malaysians, usually they prefer to stay in their own home. And then while for other countries, they may choose a place where they want to retire to. So 86 and above restricted mobilities and then needed more care and assistance depending on the health conditions. So at this time, so we will have increased expenditure on health and aged care, and then they need to move into retirement facility or nursing homes. All right, so this is what we have, the retirement housing options in Malaysia. So most Malaysians, they prefer to age at home and then care by the family member or hire a carer at home. So this one, because we're Asians usually they take pride in caring for their parents. But now with more and more senior housing options coming into the market, so some elderly, they are actually open to the options of senior housing, old folks home and retirement home. So as what Mr. Jim Pitts says, so we are similar to China. We don't have strict regulations in the senior housing. So a lot of centers are using the same terms. You know, they are calling themselves as assisted living, and then some calling themselves as a retirement home. So so we have to be careful when we're choosing the services. And then when we need more care, we have nursing care facilities, which is assisted living, and also nursing home. For nursing home wise, we have different type of nursing homes. We do have a dementia care center, and then we have a rehab center as well. So it goes according to the needs of the elderly, where they need to be. So, and then we're going up to continuous care retirement communities. This is quite new in Malaysia. Yeah, so in overseas, it's actually very popular. And then it's common there. So while Malaysia, we're just starting it. So we are a bit slow, and then we are picking up. Okay, this is today what I'm going to talk about. This is our project, Penang Turf Club. It's built by Penang Turf Club and owned by Penang Turf Club. We are the operator for the project. It's a Ccrc. So we have total of 126 units. So 77 being the independent units, 49 being the assisted living units. So, and then we design it to be like a semi-open concept, so that it allows residents to communicate well with their neighbors, and then encourage more socializations. So we are able to cater for all the age groups, and then from independent living to assisted living to comprehensive care. So residents can purchase additional care package according to their own needs. So special cases such as dementia care, dementia cases with behavioral problems, so they might need to transfer to our dementia care center. We do have a memory care center, but not affiliated with Penang Turf Club. Yeah. So for those with severe behavioral problems, then they will need to move there. Residential units are restricted access areas, and community facilities are open to the public. So this is a hybrid concept. So our concept is to have a home life facility that's conducive and safe for the occupants. Yeah. So we were trying to foster some independence to their ability while still providing care when it is needed. So we're trying to make our elderlies, our occupants, as independent as they can. So that they can enjoy their life, and then they can, just continue whatever they were doing previously, maintain the similar standard as their previous lifestyle. So we are looking at good size, and then home-like spaces, natural lighting, tasteful finishes, and then textures, colors, and then make sure it's well ventilated as well as thermally comfortable. Our retirement resort facilities include community halls, doctor clinic, wellness spa, hair and nail salon, karaoke. This one was asked from our Japan clients. They requested it, karaoke, and then games room and a physiotherapy center. So we encourage the residents to form social network and improve their communication with others. All right, so we were trying to help the residents to overcome some of the life-changing issues that comes with age, such as housekeeping, driving, and shopping streets. And then it is on a leasing basis. So Malaysia, we don't have subsidy from government to stay in a retirement resort or any senior housing options. So we have to be careful in the package. So we make it simple for everyone. You doesn't have to pay a hefty down payment or entry fees. So it's more like a leasing basis, like a rental basis. Okay, this is what we have. So we have amenities and services that are catered for residents only, and also some that's open to public. Yeah. So for the residents only, we provide meals, and then the restaurant, the dining hall is only for the residents. And then we have medical and nursing services. For assisted living blocks, the nurses are there. There's a nurses counter in every floor, and then someone is there 24/7. The independent units as well. So we do have staff that are stationed there, but the residents, they can call when they need it. So we do have a karaoke rooms, games rooms, and then we do have driver services and shuttle services where they can use to travel around the town. And then medication services, housekeeping, and laundry and maintenance. These are provided to the residents in the package. So while those services that open to the public are the cafe, and then we have a physiotherapy center. So we do physiotherapies and then physical therapies, occupational therapies. Yeah. So this one, the residents, they can sign on the package. Of course, they have more discounted rate than those public. Yeah. So spa and reflexology, each of our residents, they will get some complimentary vouchers where they can use it for themselves. Yeah. So we do have hair salon, nail parlor, and then vaccination programs when it's open. All right, so we're going to introduce a special monitoring system into our retirement resort, which is called Smart Bed AI. So it's actually an AI system that connects residents to our care team 24/7. So it's going to, the AI robot can detect, it's trained to detect any abnormalities. So when the occupant falls or is out of sight for a certain period, no movement detected for selected time, and then the AI robot will automatically notify the nursing team to provide assistance. All right, so the resident do not need to wear any equipment. Of course, each unit we do have a call bell. So, but this one is an additional package. If the resident they wish to, they can sign, and then we can install it for them. Yeah, so for all those residents, I think they, everyone prefer to have their privacy. And then they wouldn't like us to go and knock on the door to check on them every few hours. So this system comes in very handy. It doesn't have any live broadcast, so no privacy violations. I'm going to play a video, a short video, so you can have a look at how it works.
Are you concerned for your mother's wellness and safety at home? And visiting her has become impossible due to COVID-19 restrictions? Meet SP Smart Home Care, automated elderly safety monitoring for seniors at home. SP Smart Home Care monitors your mother's routine 24/7 and informs whenever an abnormal situation is detected. When your mother falls at home, our AI will detect it and automatically notify the home care nurses about this emergency incident. With SP Smart Home Care, there's always a pair of smart eyes and caring hands to safeguard your loved one when you are away. Besides that, if your mother has been sitting in the same position for an abnormally long duration, or she has been missing from the monitor area for an abnormally long duration, our AI will pick this up and notify the home care nurses so that they could check on them. SP Smart Home Care helps your senior to age safely at home, gives family a peace of mind.
Okay. All right, so this is the AI systems, and then and then it's like an optional package to our residents whether they want us to install it in the room for them. So it's applicable to the independence units and also the assisted living units. Yeah. All right, this is our unit specifications. Each unit comes with one car park. Yeah, so the resident they can still drive if they choose to be. And then the assisted living units is around 34 to 47 square meters, and then with one single bed. And then for the independent units, we actually comes in 4 sizes. We do have a single bed, single room units, and also 2 bedrooms unit. So the 2 bedrooms unit is around 90 to 115 square meter. So it comes with 2 single bed that join together. So we decided to go with that rather than just a king size bed, because we have many inquiring and then many clients that mentions that they do not wish to be on the same bed with their partners because maybe the husband always go to the toilet at night and then disturb their sleep. So we use 2 single beds, which is electrically controlled, and then they can wind up the bed and wind down the bed as they wish. So, and then we join them together. Yeah, so the maximum capacity for the deluxe, the 2 bedroom units, they actually comes in with 3 people. So because in Malaysia, some of the family actually prefer to bring in their own domestic helper. So they can if they wish to, yeah. So independent units with single rooms is around 70 to 90 square meters. And then with 2 single beds is around 90 to 101 square meter. All right, this is where we're located. You can see the racetrack. So this is a Penang Turf Club, and then we have the PRR is us. So we are actually directly opposite a golf club. So if you like golf, so this is a good place because we can use the facilities by Turf Club. Okay, so we are actually surrounded by a lot of amenities. Now, most hospitals are actually around 10 to 30 minutes away from us. So, and then from the airport, we are only around 32 minutes, yeah? So we are directly in the Georgetown. These are some of the photos. So this is the first floor, and then you can see all those glass panels. That's the physiotherapy center. This is our lobby. So we are still building the project. So okay, the resort is still in progress, and then due to the pandemic, so we're not going to open this year. So it will open next year only. So this is the link bridge in between 2 units, and this is a golf course. And then to our landscape. All right, this is the assisted living unit. It comes with 1 single bed, and then it's a medical bed. And then most of the design is actually designed to be easier for residents with mobility issues. So we are all wheelchair accessible, and then the nurses are there, stationed there 24/7. There's a call button for help, and then of course, if they wish, they can top up with the care package with the AI system. This is an independent living unit. So we have the resident will have their own dining areas, and then they will come with the pantries. We don't encourage cooking here, so the meals are all provided, but the resident, they can bring in their own microwave, and then maybe they can do some simple heating ups and stuff. This is an independent deluxe unit. It comes with 2 bedrooms. Okay, this is our team here. So we have groups of doctors, nurses, and then physiotherapists, occupational therapists, specialized care nurses, dietitian, chef, and hotel managers. And then we trying to create environments that we support the elderly so that they can still continue with their own life, and then being independent while they receive all the care they need. Yeah, so we're trying to make them comfortable, being like home, so they don't have to move anywhere. So when they age, yeah. Okay. All right. So if there's any questions that I can't answer here, you can always text me and then email me at this.
Thank you, Ms. Wee, for introducing to us the Penang Retirement Resort. Ms. Wee will also leave her email in the chat. So if you have any questions, you can just drop her an email, and she'll try her best to get back to you. Okay, so one of the questions is you've mentioned that the model is a leasing model. So yeah, just wondering how come it's not a purchase? Why is it a leasing model? And what were the costs, of living in your retirement resort look like?
Okay, so one of the things is that we don't have the regulations actually. So Malaysia is a bit slow in the senior housing. So and then we don't have subsidies from the government. That's the main issue. So if we create the models that require hefty down payment and such, so it's probably a lot of people can't afford it. So we want to make it accessible to the local as well, not just only the expat. So which is why we decided to come up with this model like rent and for rental basis.
So what will the cost be like on average for the different types of models?
For the cost wise, we are unable to release now because the project is still building. Yeah, and then we need agreement from the Turf Club to release the package. So currently we are not able to tell the cost yet. Yeah.
So another question, very short question, is like, does the Malaysia senior care sector also face like manpower crunches, or it's fine for, yeah?
Yeah, of course. So I think it's the same. It's the same everywhere, especially now with the pandemic in the COVID situations. The government they actually taken most of our staff. So we are trying our best to train our own people. We train a lot of caregivers, yeah, instead of professional nursing. So now we change the model a little bit. We hire those specialized nurses to take charge of each small team of caregivers, so that the care can be supervised and that it will be equal, and then the quality will be good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you to our three speakers for your time today and your very insightful presentations and introducing to us various models that all over like the world. Yeah, so now we come to the end of this segment. So this symposium is jointly organized by the Singapore University of Social Sciences Gerontology Program and NLB Singapore. So for more information about the gerontology programs at SUSS, please visit our website or our Facebook pages like listed in the slide. Now I shall hand over the time to Hui Yi from NLB to wrap up the program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Veronica and panelists. What a fruitful and interactive session we had earlier. I'm really excited about the different senior-friendly facilities that are currently being built. I think if I grow old, it should be quite an exciting place that I'll be living in. I'll now take some time to actually share on the resources that NLB can offer to further your interest in this area. So the NLB mobile app can actually be downloaded from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And you can just look for this orange color icon and download the app onto your mobile phone, iPad, or tablet. It's really easy. So after you launch the app, you'll be able to do many things in there. You can read the daily newspapers, find books or magazines that are of interest to you. And the library also offers many attractive programs for you to further your interests. So now I'd like to share some ebooks with you all. And these are 4 titles here that I would like to recommend. They offer different perspectives on aging, from that of an academic to a neuroscientist. So do check out these titles and have a read at them. So the one thing which I love about ebooks is that I never need to worry about the late fines because they will always be written from here on the due date. And I've also included here a resource list which you can use to further explore on this topic. So thank you for being such a great audience today. And I hope you had a great time listening and learning from our speakers. And I would appreciate if you can actually share with us what we did well in this session and what improvements can be made for next year's session. So you can access the feedback form via the QR code or the link provided. And if you're new to us, and would like to be kept posted on future programs, join our mailing list by scanning the QR code. So before we end off this session, I'd like to share that we have another 2 sessions coming up at 2:30 p.m. And one of the sessions will be about reminiscence in dementia care. And we'll actually be hearing from Ms. Patricia Lee and Mr. Gary Teo. And the other session will be about virtual reality tourism for seniors. And Mr. Jonathan Fu will be speaking on that. So once again, I thank you all for joining us for our session on senior living options around the globe, and see you in later sessions. If not, have a great afternoon. In the meantime, keep safe, and Hui here signing out from here. Goodbye.
Will I be reaching? Will I be reaching?
Thank you.
Oh,
What a messy
I like
chat,
it.
but it's so fun, right? See you then. Take care. God
Yeah,
bless.
bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
Wait, I
Thank
just have a question.
you.
I'm from
National Library, I have some closing slides to share. Also to thank our speakers and moderator. Yeah, I'll start sharing screen now. We are getting too excited. That's wonderful. Okay, just quickly because we are running short of time. Yes, if you are interested, SUSS actually offers the following program that you are seeing on the screen. Yeah, different courses that you can sign up. The info is actually in the URL that you see on the screen. Okay, I'll let you have some time to take a look.
Oh, and I just remember I did not share the last slide on all the resources.
It's in the chat already.
Okay.
Would you like?
No, it's all right. As long as it's in the chat group. And in any case, we will upload the slides at some point in time.
Yes, yes. And also, if you are, I'm sure all of you are now very interested now, and you can actually find more resources by downloading the NLB app if you have not done so. I'll tell you what you can actually find on this app. It's really wonderful. Okay, let me just change my pointer. Okay, it's very messy, but don't worry. When you have the app, you can actually see that you can actually do a quick search. You can actually search for keywords like dementia, yeah, so on. And this icon gives you access to newspapers and e-magazines that you can read online. And this is for SPH newspapers. And to find out more programs for NLB, you can actually click programs, and even you can even actually click more to learn new skills. For example, we have this database called LinkedIn. Okay, I will not go in further details, so as not to hold you back. Hold on, I just changed my pointer back again. Okay, sorry, I want to share the screen again now. All right. Accidentally closed the slide. Hold on. Give me a second, please. Okay. Let me share that again. Okay. Yes. Yeah, okay. And after you search on the keywords, you can actually find many books related to the topic for today. On the left is actually, can you go back up again? I just want to explain a bit of some of the books that are interesting. Yes, I just want to highlight a few books that are much more interesting. The second one on the Nostalgia Factory actually talks about using reminiscence. Yeah, so it's very interesting for today's topic. And also the book that you see on memory and movies, it actually goes through the various plots in movies that you see. And the author actually writes to inform you whether these scenes that you are seeing on the screen, whether it's actually based on scientific fact. For example, on Golden Pond, that is a more realistic portrayal versus those movies that you watch when the person suddenly loses memory completely overnight. And the author discusses all these very interesting facts. And the last book is actually very touching story of various stories, about 40 stories actually, of persons who are fighting against this illness. Okay? And for more info, you can actually click on the QR code below. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, also the library has also produced a lot of resource that you can actually refer to. Okay, it's the previous slide here. You can scan the QR code for more resources. And also finally, for the feedback for this session, please scan the QR code. We'd like to hear from you because we wonder, we know that you have really benefited a lot, and we really like to hear from you how the program has helped you and whether we can improve on such programs in the future. Okay, I'll give you a few moments to scan the QR code. I'll just count 1 to 10, just as what Pat has taught us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. For more info, for our library programs, you can sign up for the mailing list. Okay, you can receive email updates for upcoming events also. Okay. And next slide. Okay, and for some of you are in the next session, so just quickly go to the next session for this interesting topic on entrepreneurship and active aging. Okay, I think that's all my slides. Thank you, and sorry for that slight technical thing just now. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. We have come to the end of the program today. Thank you again for everyone who are attending the program and your enthusiastic participation, and also to our wonderful speakers and moderator. It's really wonderful for me also personally. Thank you very much.